Okay, welcome. That took some time. Yeah, I had a good 6 or 7 minutes of, we can't see your video. We can't load your video. And it's just this kind of stuff that I have to tell my internet company. And when we tell them, they're like, okay, we're going to test it again. Try it now. Try it now. And I'm not sure if those of you who are working from home are experiencing these kind of glitches, but it seems like the entire United States has throttled back internet because so many people are on it. So we may have some struggles like that from time to time. And when you get glitches, just let me know. And keep in mind that it may not always be me. Like if it's just one person that has the glitch, it might be on your end. And we'll just work through all of that together. So I just wanted to start this podcast because we haven't seen each other in so long, just by catching up. I want to know how you've been doing, how you are going through this. I call this the shift. This is like stage 3 of a lot of different shifts that's been happening in our world for, 10 or 11 years. So yeah, how are you doing? How is this affecting you, positively or not? And how is everyone? What's going on over there? Let's talk about that first. So feel free to comment to me, and let me know how you're doing. I'm going to be channeling the coronavirus entity itself on Saturday morning, working on the weekend for you guys to bring through some really, really powerful and positive information. I know all of you probably are not really seeing a ton of that. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing a lot of stuff out there, particularly on YouTube, and not all of it is positive or uplifting. So I would like to give you some really powerful information that makes sense, that doesn't scare you, that actually is just going to settle in with some truth, right? So I'm happy to bring that to you this Saturday morning for all tier levels, tier 1 and up, at 9:30 a.m. Remember that we did go into the spring forward, so we're on daylight time now. For those of you who are confused about that, it's Mountain Daylight Time. So that's an hour different than what you're used to if you're in a certain stage of the world. I think Arizona is on its own little watch sometimes. Yeah. Just finishing a book on Hilarion. Oh, who wrote it? Does he prefer we pronounce his name? I pronounce it all the time, but I don't pronounce it exactly like it is spelled. I like to pronounce it in sound. Claire Prophet. I don't know who that is. Huh. Well, I'm glad you guys are reading and connecting to your families. Brian says, I was reflecting last night and noticed how wasteful we are. I've been going through that too. As humans, and it's a great time to start to live on just the basics. Less is more. Absolutely. I've been going through that too. Just kind of noticing how I could be more resourceful, how I could teach my children to be more resourceful, with water in particular, and with food for sure for my teenagers, because they eat like nobody's business. Yeah. And just cleaner living as a whole. And my kids and I have been taking walks. We hadn't had walks as a family in several months because we've all been so busy. And, you guys remember how my schedule used to be, both during school. My kids have really positive but busy charter schools. And they also have, they're in a after school conservatory as well, where they would spend hours as well learning science and art after school. So they were very, very busy and always in recitals and robotics competition and going somewhere. So we have slowed down because we can't do any of that now. So now we plant things. We have seed collections that we're working on in the backyard. We have, I should say my son Eli is working on, and I'm planning on joining in this afternoon. We have homemade cooking that we've been doing a lot more than we normally do, trying to make use of flour supplies. It's really, really funny because my teenager and I were in the store. We were in a local tiny grocery store. I live in a tiny town in Utah, and we were in this tiny grocery store and they had some toilet paper left, and I was surprised, and it had a big sign on the toilet paper that said, "Please take only 2." So I walked up and I looked at my 18-year-old and I said, "Watch this closely. This is very important." And I grabbed 1 roll and put it in my basket and walked away because that's all that we needed. We had plenty of toilet paper. And I'm sure that we're going to need more by the end of the week. So in preparation for the end of the week only, I took 1 roll, and we are a family of 5 here, when Anya isn't here, and when she is, it's 6. So with a family of 5 to 6 people, we take as we need and only as we need, not preparing for something disastrous 2, 3, 4 weeks from now, but preparing for now up to a week, logically, conservatively, and thankfully. So it was a fun little lesson I got to teach him. And he was like, Mom, you should get more. What if something bad happens? And I'm like, okay. Both Halo and Yeshua state, don't prepare for the future in a way that scares you. The end of that, right? That was the end of my lesson there. Yeah. Jackie says, I'm practicing theta healing more. I was slacking for a while, and I find myself wanting to go out in nature more. Yeah, we do too. We've been noticing the birds more than we ever had before. I'm sure that they're just as populated as they ever were here in Utah, but we notice them more now. So that's been fun. Meditating more, that's good. Now's the time. All right, so for working with the elements, I would like to know what your questions are to go deeply into connecting to the elements of nature. And when I say elements, I mean air, wind, and breath. Those are all the same things. We just call them something different. So in my culture with Native Americans, we call air the great spirit of wind. When I practice yoga as an Eastern yogi, we call it prana. In Qigong, we call it qi, or breath of life. Basically speaking, your breath is the air. In alchemy, we could call that the outspoken word, word of God, which when you speak or think, that is the breath going external into a creative environment. So that's very sacred. What you think becomes what you speak, and voice is very sacred. So that's that part of the element of air and wind. The element of water, both in your body and in nature. The element of fire and smoke, they work together, okay? And then the element of earth as well. You have the element of earth as well. Many people have other elements, and we can talk about those, but in the 4 worlds, that's in mystery school teaching. In my mystery school and in many mystery schools around the world, we talk about the 4 worlds. In the Seth material, he also talks about 4 worlds. He just calls them something different. So for those of you who are in my mystery school, I'm walking you through the 4 worlds very specifically. And today we're going to talk a little bit. And for those of you who aren't in my mystery school, you'll get a real close acclimation and understanding of what the 4 worlds are and how to operate and connect to the elements of the 4 worlds in your own lives. Okay. So putting the questions out there at this time in the Q&A where it says ask a question, just click on that and put your questions there, because otherwise when we start chatting, I'm probably not going to see them. My vision, just so that you know, is going through a lot of fluctuations. I'm highly doubtful that I have retinitis pigmentosa, because retinitis pigmentosa does not fluctuate. It gets bad and then bad and then bad and then bad until it's gone. Mine has been up and down significantly. Like today, I'm using some magnifying lenses over my screen, and I have made my fonts on the screen much bigger. So I have big fonts as well as magnifying lenses that was sent to me by one of you. So I'm using them today over my screen, and they are incredible. And today my vision is so well that I can see that. And I have big letters on my phone as well. And without magnifying lenses on my phone, I can see text again. And then that was the same for yesterday, but the day before, not so much. And going through the airports, not so much. So yeah. All right, so let's start with the first world. I call it the world of emanation, So in alchemy, for those of you who saw my Foundations of Mystery School class, you remember we talked a lot about Ein Sof, which is translated to no end. It is what is not ending, the endless light of what? Of God or source or universe. Alchemy isn't religious, so whatever you think of as God, the endless light. So that shines through. I want to show you something, but I don't exactly remember where it is. So if you look up any tree of life, you will notice that there's a light that's kind of shining behind the kether, which is the top. So let me show you that. Let me share my screen with something for a minute so that I can show you some different me now. Great. I'll wait on that to reload. Okay. This is just what the internet does, guys. I'm sorry. So let me try to share the screen again so that I can show you some things. What is it, Em?
Where's your charger?
I don't know. What charger? For that? Mm-hmm. You have one in your room.
No, I don't.
You do.
I don't.
I can't handle that right now, Em.
Then what do I use?
I don't know. Go play outside.
I want to.
Emily?
What?
I'm working. You have to shut the door and go play.
But where's your charger?
I don't know.
Then what do I use?
If I give you the one charger that you haven't lost in my house, if you lose it, I'm probably going to be upset.
Okay.
But I will give it to you just so that you go do that.
Excuse me, guys.
All right. This is the one charger that I have left in the house that you haven't lost or broken. When we get done, you're giving it back. Okay. Yeah. Oh, no. Get baby cat out of here. No. 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 Put the charger down. Now we have kid stuff. No. Go take that out of here. Take the charger out and the phone. Take it out. Take it out. Okay? And then come back and get this little furry distraction and put him somewhere else other than here.
Hello, Furnace.
Mm-hmm. There you go. And when you go, shut the door behind you.
So here.
And remember, I'm coming to get that charger.
I remember.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you guys say you love that cat until he actually climbs up, destroys all that, and makes scratchy noises the entire class. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen for a second. All right. Let's see which screen you're on. You should be here. All right. All right, so standardly speaking, you will see this big light in most tree of lives that's right behind Keter, and is kind of intuited that it also comes through this path and shines through here, which is called Chokma. That's that particular kingdom of God that denotes wisdom. This is, where people say the crown chakra is. This is the mind of God. This is Keter. It also comes down here into Bina, which is divine feminine understanding. Okay, so it starts here in this little area here. This is primarily where the Ein Sof emanates through first, and then it goes here or here, depending upon what you believe in alchemy. Connects your intellect here to the heart, here, okay, then here, then here, then here, then here, then here, connecting all the way back up to here. And that's just kind of the way that it goes. And then once it connects all the way back up to here, it goes down to Malkuth. Okay, so Ein Sof is just something that causes all of that to actually emanate through. So this is Ein Sof. This is the infinite light of God that I'm talking about that shines through everything. Notice it looks like rings of a tree. And someone asked me the other day what actually this is, and it was a really good question. This is where light emanates from. What is that? That is the center. That is God. Okay? So basically speaking, in alchemy, I still can't see my mouse. Hang on. Okay. Stop screen sharing for now. In alchemy, based upon which kingdom of God you're in the tree of life, the Ein Sof shines through and emanates light through that kingdom and grants you access to different either virtues or vices. That's what we call them in alchemy. Every kingdom of God, which is those little round things in the tree of life, comes with either a virtue that you're learning through or a vice that you need to work on. So in the first kingdom, which is the world of emanation, that's where it starts, right there at Keter, at the top pillar of alchemy, the top of the tree of life. You have a part of your soul that I call the Shea. The Shea is also known as your life soul. It works with the part of your chakra system known as the crown. So in this particular world, there is no separation. Everything is unity, and this is where all the oneness teachings comes from, et cetera, et cetera. This is going to connect you to your element of fire, which I will answer questions about first today. How do you access the element of fire? With the secret word. I know, don't worry, it's not Fight Club. What is normally a secret in Fight Club is not a secret in alchemy, not today at least. Sod is that word from the sacred text of the Torah that is called Divine Secrets Revealed. That is its translation, or God's Secrets. So when you ask for a revelation, of God in your life, and when you ask for a revelation of Sod, and you specifically invoke in that way, while using the fire element in a sacred way, I like operating through white. There are certain colors that work well when you have access to this world. So for those of you who are my students, you're going to understand why I'm now saying this. This activates that fire when you come to these sacred ceremonies with an invocation and a white candle that you light. So any particular way that you want to do that, whether it be with Palo Santo or sage or other types of sage other than Palo Santo, if you want to, one of my students is like, I think pot is sacred, so I'm going to light up right now, and I'm, just in my whites right now, smoking, and I'm going to use the invocation, and I'm like, do what you will, man, it's fire. He thinks that's great. So there are invocations that work for that. So when you say, I invoke access to the fire element with Sod, I invoke access to the element of fire, I invoke access and revelations of Sod. Those are two invocations that you can use when you're out in nature, when you're in meditation in your homes, wherever you are. If you're on your plane home right now, like I was just a few days ago, you can do that. Don't light any fire on your planes, please. That was a Lilith thing. She's like, do not. So you can visualize fire in your mind, okay? So what does that give you? That gives you an embrace of oneness. That gives you access to your moment in your now, both in time and timelessness. So you access a feeling. That's what the element of fire does. You notice when you look at a campfire, when you're working with the element of fire, you feel the fire very profoundly, and you calm down and you feel a sense of timelessness, although you also feel very connected to everything that you need to work on in the now, but you feel just very quiet when you access fire. You're accessing the power of Sod, that secret word, that sacred word. That's God's secrets right there when you activate fire. So white candle, light it, use your invocations. I invoke access to the fire of Sod. That's one that I love to use a lot. I invoke access to the fire of Sod. I do that while lighting a white candle. I also do that while wearing my whites. There are certain things that I can do Many of you laugh when I use the Kundalini head coverings, but I do it for a reason, because it pulls in that element of fire into my body, and the head coverings is a technology that keeps it there. So if you have, if you're in the East and you have prayer cloths, you can wear them. Sod is spelled S-O-D. So if you guys like to type that out, it is, I invoke the fire of Sod within and without. Do that while lighting a white candle or while visualizing fire in your mind. Another thing that you can do to work with fire is go to, do you guys have what's called your sacred place or your secret place for meditation, your safe place? There's many things that meditators use for that. But it's the same thing. It's just a place you go in your meditation. When you're channeling in particular, all channels have a safe place. So in my safe place, one of them, I have literally thousands, but in one, I'll give you an example of it. There are a bunch of huge rocks in a circle. The circle means a lot to me. So there's a reason for most depictions of campfires having a circle of rocks around them, and then the fire that goes up in a triangle in the middle. That's a part of alchemy. So I like to envision, pieces of wood, kind of stacked against each other, looking like a little triangle or pyramid. And I like to envision a circle of rocks. And then I put also a circle of bigger rocks around that my ancestors and myself sit around the fire. I mean, yeah, sometimes we burn marshmallows and eat them. Yeah, we do those things because it's fun in my safe place. So I do that. And when I light the fire, I actually say that. I invoke access. What is it? I invoke the fire of Sod within and without. I say that at times when I sit down in my sacred place during meditation. All right. So there's various things you can do. If you have a safe place or a sacred place for your meditation, it needs to have a fire if you want access to fire. All right. Can you actually channel Sod down to your crown using your hands? Yeah. The thing about these techniques, guys, there are many channels, many shamans, many techniques, many modalities. And if you like channeling Sod down to your crown using your hands, one of the symbols for Sod is a circle with a triangle inside of it, which is one of my most sacred symbols that I use. And fire represents protection for me. So channels, that place there, all right, that's a very, very vulnerable place for channels, that you only want to be the one, you only want to be the one to dictate what energy comes in and out of that, which is why I have a tattoo back there. All right. So yes, I invoke the fire of Sod within and without. You can say, I ask for access. I invoke access to the fire of Sod within and without. I invoke knowledge of Sod within and without. I invoke revelation of Sod within and without. I say within and without in a lot of your invocations in alchemy because you want to experience what that feels like inside of yourself and what that looks like, sounds like, and feels like in your external environment. Okay? Yes, so I like that symbol. I like it a lot for fire. I'm going to be giving you different symbols for each world today. And my symbols are a little bit different from traditional mystical Kabbalah for a unique reason that if you feel like it, we can talk about. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to be looking at your questions about fire. What is the best element to get out of the fear freeze? Fire. Strangely enough, Yuli, it's fire. Fear is icy. It comes from the element of very frozen water. So we want to really catalyze that by lighting that up with some fire, warming that up with some fire. Yeah, fire is an action-based element. So when you work with the elementals of fire, you can ask for that activation. You can ask the elementals and you can envision that they come around your sacred fire and ask for an activation. Ask for an activation of divine action. When you get specific in this way And you can do that by going to your safe space, Yuli. And you can use mine. It's one of my favorite ones if you want. And have your ancestors sit on the fire. Wouldn't that be funny? On the rocks around the fire together. And when you do that, you can ask for an action-based initiation. So I would just say, I ask for the fire of grace within and without to activate my life. I ask for the fire of grace within and without to activate my life. So when you do that, that's kind of a go big or go home principle. I just want to give a nice little disclaimer on that you will become a more fiery person, which means that if you need the fire here, you'll speak more. If you needed the fire more creatively, you could sing more. You could activate more Kundalini in your life. That's just a disclaimer that particular invocation does activate Kundalini, which is, these are action-based initiations. Okay, so this will definitely unfreeze you and get you out of paralysis. Yeah, got it. Those are just fun little activations that'll work for you. Yeah. And you know, because you really love pottery, I suggest trying some pottery with painting your clay orange. You know, once you go through the painting process, I have no idea if that's before or after kiln work, probably after the kiln, that you paint something orange or red. Paint fire, that's a really good way to activate yourself out of a freeze. I call that the fear freeze too. I'll come back to yours, Benedict, because it's more air related, but I'm going to go on to Yana's. Gosh, Yana, we just talked yesterday and I know I mispronounced your name and I know that I'm doing it again. So please correct me. She says, last night I burned Palo Santo. I have it right? Are you sure? It feels like the vowel is a little off. I know I'm asking you about your own name. I'm sure that you're sure, but for some reason I'm not. It feels like I have the vowel off, like it should be more O, like Yona. I don't know why. I think this is a past life thing. We talked about that a little yesterday as well. Last night as I burned Palo Santo. Oh, is there a different pronunciation in Cherokee? That's why I'm feeling that. Please correct me on that. I would love to know how it's pronounced in Cherokee because I have forgotten. It feels closer to Yona or something. Is that right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. What do you prefer, though? Do you prefer Yona or Yana? Burning Palo Santo, the flame there seemed to want to connect and bring teachings. It does. What can we learn from fire at this time? I want you to look at it. Fire is very visually oriented. It activates your sight. So when you're burning Palo Santo, before you're so quick to blow it out, for those of you who really work with Palo Santo a lot, that particular way that Palo Santo, each type of sage activates fire a unique way. And I only know this because I'm a Native woman, but Palo Santo specifically, you want to let that fire burn a long time. You guys feel that when you work with Palo Santo? Like you really don't want to blow it out even though it smells so good. You just really want to sit there and watch that fire. So what I do when I work with Palo Santo is I use the fire of salt activations and I sit there and I gaze at it. I mean, I gaze at it for a long time. And then I let the fire teach me, because what it does is it pulls for a silence of sight. Everything that I see that's overwhelming me becomes really clear and calm and centered. So it's a centering effect. You know, we talk about protection and clearing and cleansing and grounding, but rarely do we talk about the clarity that involves centering. And this is what Palo Santo specifically offers when you invoke fire and use it. Okay. Ooh, dragons, yay. Heart Maria says, early this morning in meditations, I was seeing a fiery red dragon. Oh, hello, Tiamat. And now she's here, bigger than my house. Yep, with her claws all around it. She literally is above my house right now, and I can see her belly, but it's big, she's trying to minimalize herself. Tiamat is like bigger than 10 football fields, if you can imagine that. And she is a fire elemental dragon. She is what I call a prime dragon. Prime dragons, I'm sure that Lightworker 613 has talked about them plenty of times that come through the Sophia. Okay, so they are very fiery. They are very Lilith and very Halal. Okay, so yeah, I can see her belly and then her claws around my house. She's got her claws up underneath and she's just like holding my house almost inside of her belly. It's really, really cool, this visual that I'm getting right now. I see more etherically than I do anything else. I even see the words on the screen more etherically than I do with my eyes at this point. So yes, that is a fire elemental. And that is a being that represents fire elementals. Fire elementals don't actually have form. They simply create form, like dragons and fairies and golems and oh my gosh, some have warlocks. Hello, Merlin. Yeah. So that's one of my main guides loves to come through in a warlock form. He loves that. He loves that protective element of fire. You're working on a character in your book who is a builder, creator, activator. Yeah, fire activates and fire creates. I feel called to Juniper. What can you tell us about Juniper and how can we use it with the element of fire? Juniper as in the Juniper Essential Oil from the juniper berries. Is that what you mean? The wood. Oh, the wood. Okay, because it's a little bit different when you work with juniper. The wood of juniper is actually cleansing and purifying. So when you burn the element of wood, you can ask for that purification. You can say, I invoke the fire of sod for purification. And then you can move that juniper around, your body. So before religion got a hold of this, we used to use both juniper and palo santo and cedarwood and sandalwood and every types of wood to bless something here around our heads and to move it in a circle, and then to move down to the heart and to move it in a circle, to move to the left side of the circle and the right side of the circle. What is that representing? The Trinity, before people thought of that as a religious word. Okay, mind, body, spirit, whatever you want to call it. All right, in alchemy, we do use everything in threes. So you can use juniper to move a circle here, either here on top of your head or here in front of you to activate the crown. Here at the dot, our heart chakra. Over here to the left, which activates Bina in alchemy, that particular portion of the tree of life. And over here to the right, more for the divine masculine aspect of you, or Chokma. Okay? So that is, we also call that the supernal triangle in alchemy, which is an activation of the top and left and right. And thereby it's noted that it activates the middle is a kind of a implication. It is implied that that's activated when you go in that way. Okay. All right. Any more questions about fire before we move on to air? Nope. Okay. So Bria is known as the world of creation. So the sacred word that you're going to use is drash, or D-R-A-S-H. Sometimes, and that's just a very Western American way of pronouncing it. It's slightly different in Hebrew with more of a pronunciation on the H. Okay, I literally butcher the Hebrew and Aramaic language. So remember, your higher self knows what your intention is, and everything is sacred. So when you invoke drash, it's kind of the same thing, except now we're going to use more of breathing. So if you're working with fire and you start with fire, once you blow out the fire of your sage, then you have activated the element of air or breath or chi or prana or breath of life, or great spirit of wind, aka whatever you call it that is the same, is the element of air. So this is just something that happens. I'm very connected to the element of air. So a lot of times when I'm out near an ocean, it'll respond to me and activate air and wind. Oh my gosh, wind. Everywhere I go, wind just blows. And one of my friends, Elizabeth Davila, here in my local spiritual community, has a big connection to birds and the element of air. So when you're activating air, when you're out in nature, have you ever noticed that birds tend to come? So we were trying to be around water, and the element of air wanted to tell us yes or no for what bodies of water were best for us to activate. And the air would just pick up and it would just blow us all around. And it was so fun. So the God word for that is Drash. Drash is, how do I want to best describe what it can be translated to in English? The drash in alchemy refers to sort of the stories, the sacred stories that go down, the discursive tales and stories and beautiful lore that comes along with alchemy, as well as alchemy's philosophy and theory. So these are the beauty of your stories that are passed down by mouth and speech and breathing, and God's divine whisper. We call that the word of God in the Bemin alchemy from the Keys of Bemin that I teach a lot of you from. So the soul that you're activating, the portion of your soul that you're using when you work with those elements is the neshama. So that's Neshamah, which is called the breath soul. Okay, so the breath soul activates in the body, the crown and the brain, and all of the primary organs and glands in the brain that help you with everything, with every part of breathing life into your body. So the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, and the hypothalamus, the full amygdala is activated as well. And it sends chi or life energy all the way down into your heart, which then pumps blood. And this is why Bria is called the world of creation. You create yourself over and over again in each moment of breathing. Okay, so the faculties of mind that you're working with here, all right? You know, in absolute, there's complete oneness. So there's no dualistic components that you need to work with. There's no vice, in other words, that's going to come up when you're working with that world, you know, that absolute world of emanation that we were talking about before. Every world has a vice and a virtue. And what I mean by that is the virtue is something that you're going to gain and feel and master. The vice is something that's going to come up that you need to heal or integrate. And absolute is the only exception. But now we're in Bria. So now we come into creation. Now you're working with air. So this relates back to God is, which we then, God just is. There's nothing about that. Then God thinks, God feels, and God speaks, and begins to, in alchemy, God speaks, and simultaneously there's an action. In shamanic teaching, God has to speak it and believe it, and then there's an action. But in these worlds, the moment you actually get to the point of speaking it, action occurs simultaneously. Okay, so for that reason, you're working in this world with faculties of the mind. So your reasoning, your logic, if you have doubt, this is the vice that needs to come up that you need to contend with. You need to integrate that and work with that. If you have deeper wisdom and understanding, it's going to come up as a virtue in this world. Okay? Your human expression, what I mean by that is how this is going to come out in your world. This is going to make you doubt what you think of as science and recreate it for yourself. This is going to make you have access to new forms of science that you didn't even know existed. This is what air does. This I call the element of contemplation, quiet contemplation and spoken contemplation. So this brings about true essence of reasoning. This makes you question the laws of physics and get beyond it. This brings you to the access of all laws of nature involving the basic forces and elements, because you can't have access to the other elements without breathing. All right? So your sensation of feeling separate is going to come out a lot more, and you're going to then stop rationalizing it in a way that would be what I call hyper-rationalization or overthinking, right? So this helps that, right? So I invoke knowledge of Drash with the element of air. Again, I invoke knowledge of Drash with the element of air. Do that while blowing out a candle, blowing out your sage. You can use the feather. For those of you who have a native background and you like to use the feather to kind of move it around you. And that purifies things as well and brings you deeper into what I call the virtue of purification. Air purifies, right? Questions about air, the element of air. Let's see, I said I would get back to Benedict's question. She states, I talked to a crow lately and he showed me the huge field of crows in the sky. And I felt he told me that they are the emancipation of wind. I wonder what you mean by that. Yeah. The huge field of crows also looks similar as the huge God field. Yeah. But in a different color and scale. What is your take on that? Crows are deeply discerning. They are masters of the element of air. They are showing you the God mind. They are showing you the field of energy that happened. Well, it can't happen because it's not really an experience, but this is more of a, what would physics look like if it weren't in creation? What happens before you feel? What happens when God has a thought? And before we have in alchemy what we call the outspoken word. We think, but before we feel and then speak and then act, what is that God field like? What is that energy like? So they were showing you that. Pretty cool. There's someone questioning underneath someone else's question. What I advise about that is to kind of put your own question, because I get confused about whether or not you're commenting to the original question or whether or not I need to pay attention, because those are very small letters. So what I would do, I think that might be Gloria. It's in tiny, tiny letters and I can't read it. Even my magnifying lens won't make that okay for my vision. So what you need to do is just take those questions and put them as actual comments, not responses to someone else's comments, so that I can magnify them and see them. Otherwise, being legally blind, that's kind of hard. I'll just have to intuit it, which is hard. If I have to, I will, but it's hard on my head. Are Sephiroth related to air? Which Sephiroth is related to air? All of them. In my world of teaching alchemy, I will say every single one of them is the correct answer. But primarily we work with Bina. When we start out with that, we work with Bina, which is kind of to the left, in the triangle and in the pillars in alchemy on the tree of life. What is an example of why one would work with air? I know you said purification, but you said fire purifies as well. Fire purifies by cleansing and burning away certain things like greed, people who are unaware that they struggle with avarice, attachments. Fire works with burning away attachments and attachment-based karma. Air works with purifying what you think and what you then speak. So air purifies thoughts that you have that are kind of like in the back of your head. I don't know quite what to call that, but Dolores used to call that part of our ego Mr. Stupid. Lovingly. She didn't mean to insult anyone, obviously, but sort of that drawing on of the thoughts that go on in our mind just kind of over and over again. Sometimes we're conscious of it and sometimes we're not, but ways that we speak to ourselves or about ourselves, or the ways that we speak about others as well, just kind of that conscious or unconscious, drawing on the mucky mind, it's another way to call it. Air purifies that. And it purifies that with the technology, the emotional technology of grace. So it purifies in a different way. So when you ask for the fire of grace, it's more karmic. And when you ask for the peace of grace, you're working in with Bria. Fire of grace works in absolute, and Bria is the peace of grace. So there's a different type of technology of grace that you're working with in each world. Okay, does that attend to your question, Regan? Oh, another fire question, maybe. I had a powerful dream where the Lord of Fire introduced himself. Ooh, what was that like for you? I felt very comfortable with him as he talked to me. Good, because many people aren't. Then he sent me away to a school somewhere in the universe. Yes, he does that. And elementals do that. They send you to what I like to call spirit school. And you can ask to be sent to spirit school by elementals. That's another way to work with them in mystery. Okay? Sorry, I keep interrupting, but every time you talk, there's just so much interruption that comes for teaching. Okay, so Lord of Fire, you felt very comfortable with him. I felt comfortable with him as he talked to me. Then he sent me away to a school somewhere in the universe, and I felt like I was in kindergarten to learn what I needed. Do not remember our conversation nor what I was learning in the school. Is there anything you can add to this to help me understand the dream? It's not meant for conscious understanding. That's why it's called spirit school. So what I would do is go back into an invocation as you are falling asleep. It does not have to be a meditation. Just wait until you're getting ready to fall asleep at night and ask the Lord of Fire to send you back to the Fire Spirit School or Spirit School of Fire. Okay? I feel a little Harry Potter when I teach you guys these things. So ask that. Ask the Lord of Fire to bring you back to that. So let's shorten that invocation. I invoke the Lord of Fire for access to Fire School. Have fun. Feel like you're going on to Hogwarts now? I do. Have you discussed about the Holy Spirit and what it is personally with each of us? Not really the class for that, but in alchemy, spirit does embody air. So spirit is breath. So Holy Spirit is also in alchemy called Ghost of Spirit or Holy Ghost. I know that's going to trigger some of you, but yeah, it was called that before it was turned into religion as well. And that's where religion got that term. And it is simply the quiet, secret, whispered breath of God that's very quiet within you before your thoughts start. That is what Holy Spirit is in alchemy. Okay. Okay, where were we? We're on to Yetzirah, which is the third world. Sean and I went over this today in school about the world of formation, and I gave him a ton of homework. This is going to connect you to the element of water. So moving on to your questions about water elementals, we can talk about that now. For those of you who like to bless the waters, this is your element, okay? If you've ever watched the movie Moana, this is my favorite child movie, child-friendly movie about the elements of water. And do you remember Moana freaks like me? I'm going to call you that with love and with just as well, because I am a Moana freak. Emmy and I have watched it just straight up hundreds of times. We hold no shame about admitting that to you, because when little baby Moana goes down to the shore and the ocean talks to her, it comes up and it makes a little swirly form and it talks to her without words. This is what water does. You see waters in plasma prisms and plasma balls a lot. Have you guys seen that before? That's what water elementals look like. It looks like kind of orbs, except roundish plasma, and they are moving. You can feel them moving, okay? So the sacred word in the mystical Kabbalah that we use is from the Torah and is called remez or remez. That word is R-E-M-E-Z. What remez is very hard for me to explain in English. Sometimes Hebrew and Aramaic just don't quite go over into English very well. But remez means an allusion to sacred language. Remez is what is used in poetry. So this is why a lot of times in mystery school, I will ask you guys to work with Rumi, Khalil Gibran, and Lao Tzu. Those are my three teachers to work with remez, because it is like a mystical language that pulls apart the sacred word of God that cultivates your heart. Okay, so the world of formation operates in your world, your energetic world of emotions and your senses and your feelings. The soul of you that is being activated is called Ruach. Okay, I know it's Hebrew. So again, Ruach. It's the best I can do with that. Sorry, Hebrew speakers, you can do it yourselves. So Americans will call it Ruach, and that's just kind of how we are. Again, intentions are what matters. This part of your soul, this Ruach, is the wind, water soul. So this is when air and water come together. So a primary example of that recently for me was watching waters, really powerful waters, just get really feisty in Ireland when different portions of different oceans meet and combine. These waters just become real feisty and powerful. So there's an element of water in Ireland and an ocean in Ireland that is primarily responsible for wind, and it's more windy. And then another ocean in Ireland that, well, the same ocean, but different waters of the same ocean. And those waters, those portions of those oceans are kind of more peaceful and watery and calm. That's why when you go to portions of the oceans in Ireland that are, more wind-based, they're powerful and they crash into rocks and they're just like almost scary. They're just wild waters. And then the waters that are more peaceful and calmer, they're more just peaceful grace. They're more from Bria. And then you have a combination of these waters, and the combinations of those waters in the oceans activate Yetzirah. So you can find those activations in certain portions of oceans in Ireland that are both calm and feisty. I think Irish people will understand what I'm talking about, because there's just different components to the oceans wherever you go, and they feel different. They just do. So I know you Irish people know what I mean. So you're activating the wind, water soul. Okay. Heart Maria said, I hear the ocean crashing in my mind. Yeah, they make a unique sound. They're so powerful that the last time I was there on Hook Island at that ocean that's combined like that, it was calmer than usual, but I could still hear the sound of the water pulling on the pebbles. And it's like this, the pebbles make this clanky sound as the wind in the water actually activates them. And it's this little sound that's like a clicking. It's very weird and cool and beautiful. And you could just sit there and it's almost mesmerizing, and a little dangerous. But I didn't care at that time. So that part of you, that's your Ruach, the part of you that is balancing your peace and your fire. That's what's being activated in this world with the element of water. So the portion of yourself that is colloquially activated in alchemy is the heart center. In alchemy, we call that your heart faculties. So the heart faculties that you work with in this world of Yetzirah, this world of formation, those heart faculties are compassion, fear, and desire. So fear can actually become your friend in alchemy when you activate it in a certain way, because you learn to become compassionate for yourself and you learn to give yourself permission to have desire without shame. So it purifies shame. This is what this world does. This is what it'll do for you. The element of water will really help you in this way. So that's important. You can use this invocation. I invoke awareness of Remez through the element of water, within and without. I invoke awareness of Remez through the element of water, within and without. Do it while standing in water, or in the shower, or in the bathtub, or in the ocean, or in a river, or in a foot bath. I told a student today, I'm like, I don't care if you don't have access, pull out a foot bath, put your feet in the tub and just sit on the edge, just whatever you want to do. A bowl of water, guys. Add some salt if it gets to be a bit much, and that helps. Just some pink Himalayan salt or Epsom salt will calm that down if it's a bit much. Your human expression, you'll become more of an artist, more of a poet, more writing journals. It activates the technology that I call awe, AWE, the awe of God. So when you wonder so powerfully with grace, you become in awe of God, okay? So this world does have a vice that will come up in you. So cravings, whether they be cravings for sex in particular, cravings for food, anything involving a craving / desire. So whatever your cravings are that you desire, when you have too much Ruach, you'll be pulled towards wanting to heal from porn addiction or sex addiction. You'll be pulled towards wanting to heal with food addictions, internet addictions. And the emotion that you're going to be clearing would be resentment, bitterness, hypercriticism, being too critical, shame, and hatred. So if you have any of that in you that you know or don't know about, it will come up. Okay? And then the final, wait a minute, I didn't answer any questions. Do you have questions about water? We'll get some time for that before we move on to the fourth world. Anybody have questions about the element of water and the Yetzirah, otherwise known as the world of formation, which the element of water governs? Going once, going twice. I think all of us know how to activate with water. Is ice in this world? Yes, but only when you're frozen. So as Yuli was describing a while ago, she felt frozen in fear. So that was the element of water trying to bring that up for her. Okay. So ice is only there when things are just a little underbalanced and there's so much fear that the water just freezes and you just kind of get very fearful, and that's hard. How to release excess water? Well, add the element of earth. Work more in the asaya, which we're about to talk about, or asaya. Many pronunciations with different teachings in alchemy and different branches of alchemy. Okay. You can also release the element of water by yoga. Yoga activates more breath. Yoga literally like squeezes the muscles and tendons and ligaments, and you can, if there's excess water or anything there, it'll detox it in that way. Okay. And adding Epsom salts again to your bath will do that as well. But that's one way. That's a gentle way. Or you can burn it away. Heat always dries up water, but I find that to be a quick fix, but not necessarily a comfortable way. Just saying. Okay. Okay. Any more questions about, when I practice yoga, I feel like I'm drowning? Not enough air. You breathe, breathe, breathe very deeply, very deeply. And also, you could have some fear because the element of ice that comes up in water actually freezes fear and causes you to feel very much like that. Okay, on to asaya or asaya. So in asaya, the world of action. So we talk about God's beingness and oneness, and then God thinks, God feels, and finally, God does. So this is action. So this is a very materialistic, dualistic seeming world of matter and energy becoming matter. So in this, you're working with the portion of your soul called the nefesh. So the nefesh is also called the animal soul. This is the primal part of the human soul. And this is activated by the element of earth. We became primitive when we became activated through earth bodies. All right. So the portion of yourself that you're working with is the lower self, otherwise known as the physical, kind of the sexual body, the sensing body. We call it many different things in alchemy. So it's activated in the body. You'll feel it more in your midsection and legs. So the Malkuth is the kingdom of God that is normally also activated, and sometimes Tiferet, or somewhere between Tiferet or Malkuth, when you're working through the Sephirot in the Tree of Life. Okay, human expression. So whatever parts of you govern eating, sleeping, exercise and sports, sexual activity, bodily functions of all varieties are governed by the Asaya. Okay. Your worldly expression, basically you're looking at what appears to be your internal and external world, and your world as you think it seems. But not all is as it seems. But you're at least going to look at it and examine what you think it is. So the vices that you will be working through: greed, avarice, kind of just general alienated carnality, kind of more flatland materialism, Yeah, we call it asaya or asaya. Okay. And again, you're working with flat out element of earth. So for people who are feeling ungrounded, kind of floating around just a little bit too much in the spiritual world of air, and ether, air and ether go together in alchemy, you would need more asaya. Okay. So the sacred word that you're going to be using is Peshat, P-S-H-A-T, and Halacha. I'll say that again, Halacha, H-A-L-A-C-H-A. So, Peshat, the best way that I could translate that in English is like if you could look at a big iceberg and whatever is on the surface of things, the tip, surface level. Okay. Halacha is more of a divine question. The question is, and you hear this question every day, or at least I do, what should we do now? When people want to be guided into action and they ask, what should we do? Halacha is the divine question. Okay? So I invoke knowledge and awareness of Peshat. That is your first invocation. I invoke knowledge and awareness of Peshat with the element of earth. I invoke answers of Halacha with the element of earth. Some of you alchemists are going, I see what you did there. I invoke answers of Halacha with the element of earth. That means Mother Earth is going to give you the answer to your questions about actions in your life. So when you kind of get to that point in your life spiritually where you're like, I am tired of all this spiritual stuff that you're teaching me, Pamela. Can you please just tell me what to do with my life because I am stuck? That's when you use that invocation. Okay? We've all been there. It's really human. Many of us are there right now. So if you're there, use these invocations. It'll help you out a lot, okay? Okay, now I can answer your questions about all of the elements for the next few minutes before we close off. Does astrology give indication of which elements are most desirable to work with? I'm sure it does, but I wouldn't know because I'm not an astrologist. Yeah, just kind of not my thing. Yeah, do light workers tell you anything about that? Because I just don't. I don't work with astrology hardly at all. I'm just now starting to formulate an interest in Vedic astrology, but knowledge of it is not there logically at all. Should one work with the elements that are strong in the chart? or try to bolster the weak elements. Invoke answers from Halasha. Sometimes I don't know that answer. If it's an astronomy or astrology question, you got me on that. I have no idea. Did we cover the vices associated with air? Did we? I thought we did. You mean in Bria, right? The vices, I guess we didn't, but we not enough. Hyper-rationalization and living in the head. Too much separation in the mind, too much that word. Yeah, you guys know what I mean. Don't make me try to say it again because you know what I mean. That is the vice with air. What is the invocation to work with Malkuth? There are two of them that I just listed for Bishat and Halacha. I'm a double water sign. I'll tell you guys, with astronomy and alchemy, some alchemists really try to find a way. I know Diane Fortune finds a way to try to make that work together, and she does a damn fine job at it. It's not my thing. So if you want to learn more about how that works, some alchemists work with astronomy and some don't. So you can get yourself a Diane Fortune book for that answer, but it's not my thing really, with connecting alchemy with astronomy. Why? Because the Earth is always moving and everything else is as well. So wherever we come in based upon planets moving, then they're going to move again. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's just me. Again, that's why I don't work with astrology at all. But I'll read your question. She said, I definitely have had to work with most vices you mentioned that are related to water. It may not be a coincidence that I need to be working with fire. It may not be. I find that if you have vices with water and you work with fire, fire kind of invokes a karmic response, but it is very uncomfortable. So maybe try earth first and then go with fire, unless you're kind of a go big, go home person, which, Gloria, I know that you sometimes are. I'm not going to repeat invocations at this time because we need to kind of get through everyone's questions and then close the class. I need to finish up my kids' homeschooling, unfortunately. But you can when we use Crowdcast, it pretty much posts the recording right away, like within 5 to 10 minutes. So you can go backwards on that. I was telling my mom today, I'm like, Mom, I homeschooled my 18-year-old from 7th grade until graduation, and I homeschooled my 15-year-old when he was for an entire year, and it didn't work out very well. But I am not an exceptional homeschooler, and moms around the world, we're in this position now to learn to be exceptional homeschoolers, and oh my goodness, I am so triggered about this because I'm like, I didn't sign up to homeschool and you want me to work at the same time. What? But I know that our ancestors did this very well, and I'm starting to remember the portions of me that did do that very well. But yeah, I need to end this class so I can go do that very well. Which element and world is best to focus on first with the shift going on? Gosh, that's going to be different for everyone. But I'd say that the world of action, everyone is so scared, so they might be overstimulated with asaya. So I'd say working with the world of formation would be on the collective the best choice. But for everybody, again, we're not labels with jars on them. It's just what I've researched about the collective at this time is they need more Yetzirah, and they also need more Atzilut. They need more oneness, just understanding the concept of oneness, because a lot of people just can't perceive how they're going to do this if they are kind of overstimulated or have a lack of expression in one or any of these worlds, any of the 4 worlds, right? So balance that out appropriately in your own lives. I could be wrong, but I think Vedic astrology takes the movements of the planets and heavenly bodies, etc., into consideration. I hear that they do. Like, I'm intuitively drawn to Vedic astrology, but I don't have the knowledge. I just have intuition about it right now. I don't have anything to actually teach you, logically speaking, about it. Yeah. I feel that you're right, Gloria, that it could hold more validity than Western astrology. But I know a really good astrologist. His name is Altazar. We had a YouTube with him once, and he did my chart, and it was real fun. And he just kind of did the basics of my chart for everyone to see on YouTube, and it was really funny. And interesting too. And he does a combination of Western and Eastern. He uses a lot of both. He finds validity in all of it. So this is not me downing astrology. I'm just saying it's just not my thing. Western astrology in particular is not my thing. Would working with elementals help when one is trying to heal fear in earth beings? Regan, what do you mean in earth beings? Can you, if you're there in chat, can you type that out? I'm watching. My spirit guide, Blair, goes, correction, I'm watching and repeating it to you. Okay, great. Giving you your gold medal now. Yay, yay, golf clap. I love him so much, but he's just like a little overworked today and yesterday. And he's letting me know. Earth beings, like, what do you mean by that? Did you leave the class helping people and pets, perhaps? Oh, okay. I'm going to read that again. Would working with elementals help when one is trying to help heal fear? I'm just going to say in humans and animals. Yeah, but it depends upon what the fear is. And it's really good to kind of like narrow that fear down, because each element will help you depending upon the type of fear it is. So when you go through this class and I say, here's the vice, that's the fear that you want to work with. Okay. And yeah, it does. It helps a lot. I like to sage my kitty cat, primarily because he uses a litter box way too often. He really likes to poop, that one. And also because he has a lot of fear because he's like me, he's legally blind, and he has a lot of fear of other animals, particularly dogs, other dogs, and birds. He recently has been a lot better with other dogs because one of my neighbors has a cute little dog who loves cats, who came over and started introducing himself to baby cat. And at first he ran and freaked out, but after a few visits from the dog, he was calming down a lot more. But he's terrified of birds, and a crow cawed at him while he was outside yesterday in the backyard, and he was just chilling in the sun, and this crow cawed at him really loudly and kind of swooped him a little bit, and he hauled ass, like he was just like inside. Yeah, so he needs to understand air a little bit. Yeah, he was scared. And I tried to, for like hours, I was bringing him outside going, look, no crows, it's okay. But he didn't believe me. He's still not out there today. All right, guys, this was a fun class. I hope that you get out there in nature and use your invocations and use your tools and work with these elements to give you deeper access into the four worlds and alchemy. And I will see you. I'm not sure that I have anything else going on this week, but Lightworkers, if I do, can you please post it here so that they know? But I know that I do have something on Saturday. That's really the only thing that I'm aware of, is that on Saturday, we have a channeling of the coronavirus entity, which again is going to provide some much powerful information, just really powerful and calming, really truthful information. I know you guys have had a lot of access to information, so just don't go into information overload. We need to talk first. What are you talking about? Okay, I'll call you. How do you pay for that? You don't. It's tier 1 and up, that one. It's the Yeshua one that'll be separate from here. So the Yeshua one is on Easter, and it is 11/11 for the first 200 members. And you can get the link anywhere. I'll post it on Patreon, but it's on my Facebook page. It's on YouTube right now. You can get it anywhere. I'm going to be asking Flavia to put it on the website on my PamelaAaralyn.com as well. But yeah, I'll post it on Patreon as well, the link for that. All right. And I'll see you guys on Saturday morning. And that link will be posted. The link for the channeling of the coronavirus will be posted on Friday. All right. So I'll see you guys later. Namaste.